Hello, my name is Allison, and today I'm doing a visual review of the Sankey custom visual in Power BI. So here I've got a completed visual inspired by an exhibit at the Auckland Museum where they've done overseas births in Auckland, and I've decided to take that and map that out to all of New Zealand. So we've got the different areas or regions of New Zealand depicted here, and where all of the people were born according to the 2018 census. So as you'll see when I hover over these, that can highlight, and we've got the different colors representing the different continents or the different parts of the world, and so I can kind of get a view or a story of what's going on. I would love to be able to animate this, but that's not an option in the native visual itself. So this requires me or the user to go through and highlight the links between the different nodes. And you'll notice that as I do that, it becomes a lot more transparent and a lot easier to see what's going on, particularly when we've got so much data like we do in this data set here. So this is a great visual when you don't have too many different sources and destinations, but it's also fantastic for interacting with and working. So you'll notice that we've got the ability, and I am in read-only mode, so the report viewer, the end user, has the ability to take any of these nodes and manipulate them. By default, it puts the least population on the top and the largest population on the bottom, but we can rearrange those and sort them however makes sense to us, and get a different picture of what's going on in the visual and group things however we want them to be grouped. So you can manipulate that and move things around. And what I'm going to do now is go into edit mode. Alright, so now we're in edit mode for the same visual that I was looking at before, and I have already customized this and changed the colors to match what I want. So if we wanted to, we could go into the Power BI desktop and we could change the theme, and we could update the colors. Alright, so now we are in edit mode for the same custom Sankey visual that we were looking at before, and you'll see that here we've got the completed visual where I've already spent time customizing the colors. But what I'm going to do is walk you through some of the formatting options that we've got in this visual and how this visual is created. So we are going to create a new page and start this visual from scratch. So you'll see that we've got our Sankey data, and what this has is it's got a destination column and it has a source column. And when I put those into the visual, you'll see that we've got Africa, and that goes into North Africa and the Middle East, and it goes into Sub-Saharan Africa. And at the moment, the size of all of these links is exactly the same. So what I can do is I can give them some weight by adding a population field into here. And we could do that on sum or average or maximum, just any measure value you can put into there. So now you'll see that that's changed the size of all of these nodes. And now we're going to go into the formatting options and see what we can do with that. So we've got our general size of the visual like we do in every visual. There's nothing new or different in there. I can turn the data labels off, make it a little bit cleaner looking, and I can also force the display of the data labels. So you'll notice that I'm not seeing the names of these labels because it's too small. So if I force the display, that'll turn those on. You've got your typical display units and your font sizes. And then we can also turn on the data link labels, which is freezing it because there's a lot of them. And it's going to make it very, very busy. So you can see that that's giving you the label with the data links, and we'll turn those off again. All right, what we can also do is we can change the color of the links and the nodes. Unfortunately, I would love to be able to change the color of the node and have that carry through to the links. But I don't have any option here to have the links take on the color of their nodes. So what I need to do is I need to set the color of the links individually. And you can see as I'm scrolling through here that I've got a lot of combinations. So there are a lot of links that we need to set. Even if I just take the time to do the Pacific Islands links, that is going to take me quite a while to go through and update all of these. But what you'll also notice is that as we do that, it makes everything a lot more visually stunning and a lot easier to pick up and see what's going on and where the people are coming from and where they've settled in New Zealand. All right, so I won't bore you with continuing on with color coding those links. We've got the same issue with the nodes. I've got less of those, but again, we have to give those a color individually, node by node. The next thing that you'll notice is that all of these regions in New Zealand are about the same size. And for those of you that don't know a lot about New Zealand, that is not the case. So Auckland is New Zealand's largest city by far. It's got about a quarter of New Zealand's population. Now, mind you, this is just overseas, people who were born overseas, so it's not the entire population of New Zealand. So it's possible that overseas residents have distributed themselves evenly across all of the New Zealand regions, but not very likely. So the reason we're seeing that similarity is because it's got a minimum optimal height of each node, and that's been turned on. If I turn that off, you'll see that we've now got different sizes for the different regions, and Auckland is on the bottom, so it is the largest. So it's got about 0.46 million overseas born people living in Auckland at the time of this census. But we are getting the different sizes for the different areas. And actually, Auckland's not the largest, and you can see that, but it has still settled at the bottom, which is interesting, because typically these default to sort from smallest to largest, but Auckland has gone to the bottom, and as we saw earlier, you can change that. So you could move that around, and we could put the Waitemata at the bottom, which is also a part of Auckland, and we could put Counties Manukau in there as well, because again, Counties Manukau is part of Auckland, so we might like to visually see those grouped together rather than split all across the country. Now again, the difficulty that I have here is there's no way to realign those once I've split them. All right, so I can adjust the scale. If we've got things cycling back on themselves, you can update how the nodes behave. So at the moment, it will create a new link. So if Oceania is a source, New Zealand is the destination, and then we've got New Zealand as the source and Oceania as the destination, what you'll see with the duplicate is Oceania coming over here as a duplicate node. If we've got draw backward link set, then that would draw a link back to Oceania instead of duplicating it. So you can have some cycles displayed as well using this visual. Title is pretty standard: background, aspect ratio, border, shadow, and visual header. So there's nothing too different in those than what we've normally got in all of our other visuals. So just those basic coloring and formatting options, and then that functionality that you've got within the visual itself to change the layout and reformat it. And remember that the end user can play around with this as well. So however you set the layout is what's going to be the default that they'll see.